yourself, life, about everything, right? So that means that when the mind receives this knowledge, what will it do? It will create its own meaning rather than really understanding what needs to be understood. So basically you need a non-projecting mind. So if you need a non-projecting mind, where do you start? Living in the world, but what? Trying to undo, first recognize where are the distortions and then undo those distortions, right? So that means the nature of the knowledge is such that it is what we call praptasya prapti. Okay? Atma, according to the vision of Vedas, is already free. Okay? It's not that the awareness or consciousness is bound and through your actions you're free. Please understand. It's already free. Okay? So that means it's just a matter of understanding what your real nature is. Okay? So as Nakul was saying, that we are all swimming in the sea of awareness or consciousness, but who are you? Are you one character who is swimming in the sea of consciousness, or who are you? Or are you the awareness? Where is your I? Human is the awareness, right? And everything that is swimming in the sea of awareness, is it independent of awareness? No. So it is deep, it has a dependent existence, right? So now, what you have understood is the fact that in fact all that is here is I.
Is there another English translation, like to awareness?
Yeah, consciousness. Consciousness. In fact, in Sanskrit it is Chit. Sat, Chit. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. This is the Sanskrit. If you want to know what Sanskrit word is, it is Chit. Okay? So, generally, for every...
That's a good question.
Yeah, because, generally when we use the word awareness, we think that awareness of something, right? So that means I'm thinking about something and I have an awareness of something. If I use the word consciousness, it's the same problem. Because generally when we think, right? When we think about consciousness, what do we think? My little consciousness. I'm very conscious about, what? Environment, for example. Right? So we use the word consciousness or awareness in a very limited sense. Okay? Now, Upanishads have to use the word, and in fact, the language is created by us with our own understanding of what the word is. So we don't have the understanding of high being limitless. So every word is created, what? Which has a limited connotation. Right? Now, if the Upanishads use unknown words, will they be able to convey anything? No. So you have to use the known words which have limited meaning, and then what do? Through the teaching, the teacher makes you see that, okay, this is the normal meaning of the word, but the way Upanishads use it is something what it takes out that limitation. So that job is done by the teacher.
Also, we separate the conscious and the subconscious mind, whereas actually the subconscious mind in this case is more aware and literate in a way of being aware.
In fact, what I would say that there is a conscious mind and there is an unconscious mind, and both are variable, both are changing. There is one awareness which is the truth of both, which does not change at all when all this conscious and unconscious mind changes.
Yeah, when you dream and when you do a subconscious mind, that's
Yes.
when you really think out of the box and you can grasp more of these realities of Vedanta because you're not limited.
That's true. Because even though awareness is always free, where is the ignorance? In your mind. So where do you need to remove the ignorance? In the mind. Okay? So ignorance, what is opposed to ignorance is knowledge, and awareness is the one which what? Sustains ignorance and sustains knowledge, and it itself is free from both. Okay? But in order for you to know the true nature of awareness, you need to expose yourself to the teaching and remove the ignorance about what is the nature of life. Okay? So the teacher, this is why we say that the teacher doesn't just give a talk, the teacher uses a methodology to use those words. This is in Sanskrit. It's a very good question you asked, Riya. In Sanskrit, this whole methodology is what we call Bhagatyada Lakshana. Okay? Bhagatyada Lakshana means I use the word awareness. Okay? Then your understanding of awareness is what? Some little awareness. So what do? I make you give up tyaga, partial giving up of that meaning of awareness and retaining the meaning that I want to convey.
So you give it a new meaning.
Exactly. I give it a new meaning. Okay? So this is why the teachers of Vedanta are very conscious about what they are doing. It's not just a lecture. Okay? So, very good question. Now, and all the characters that are swimming in awareness are what we call mithya. They depend upon awareness for its existence. So this is something which is already accomplished. If it is an already accomplished fact, what are we doing? We are just removing our ignorance about this reality. Okay? Now, if that is the case, the whole pursuit becomes that of knowledge, knowing what is. Okay? Now, where is the role of all your emotions? This is what he says. Unless you have resolved your anger, your sadness, your fears, this knowledge will not take place. Why? Where is the connection?
Because your emotions cloud that.
Exactly. Right? So your emotions cloud this whole reality. Because behind those emotions, what is there? There is a wrong understanding of who you are, right? And how certain events in this world have given you certain experiences, and the way you have interpreted those events is what? It's something which is what? From the standpoint of helplessness, from the standpoint of being a victim, from the standpoint of my seeing myself as a failure. So you have all these implicit assumptions behind all these feelings. So now, can the knowledge that I'm free and I'm truth of the whole universe coexist with all these, emotions which are not just going to all disappear? Okay? Behind those emotions, there are some implicit assumptions which are all there. So there is a time that you feel that two things coexist. When you come to Vedanta class, you do understand what is being said, and you can appreciate this fact because there is no logic which can actually deny what Vedanta is saying. But when you go out there and you begin to transact with the world, situations in the world will trigger all the responses of what? Anger, fears, sadness. Okay? All this will come back. So now what do you need to do? Exactly. You need to learn to manage the emotions, and you need to what? Look into the implicit assumptions which are there, okay, behind those emotions, okay, and you need to correct them. Because unless you revisit your emotions and certain implicit assumptions and certain internal messages that you are giving to yourself and you correct them, they will continue to exist. You can't choose to say, oh, it's all mithya, it's all transient, so let me just forget about it. There is no such thing called forgetting about it. Okay? Because otherwise, Vedanta becomes an escape. Okay? Because you say, okay, now this world is mithya anyway, so what does it matter? We are not talking about dismissing mithya. Mithya means just understanding the order of reality. Even though the world is transient, it's very critical how you look at the situation and how you respond. Right? So that means that whole thing you need to readjust and realign with this reality. So that whole process takes time. Okay? So last time we talked about two emotions. One was what? Fear, and the other one was anger, insecurity and anger. Right? This time we will talk about sadness. Okay? So how is this, what exactly, what is sadness? Where does it come from?
Sense of entitlement.
How wonderful, right? So that means you feel, that's lovely. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, you can only feel sad if you think you own something, right? Or something has been taken away that you possess. Or thinking that.
Lovely. sense of entitlement. You know that this is something which is my right now, it is taken away from me, and then you feel sad. So then generally what happens in that sadness? When, you know, how long is this thought or whatever, that emotion of sadness, how long does it last? Any one thought?
As long as we feel entitled.
Okay, one given thought cannot last for more than 2 seconds, right? Still we feel that I have been depressed for 1 year. Okay. So what is going on?
You're sustaining that thought.
Exactly. So that means if there is a thought, it is there, right? We are not denying the thought. But what happens is, as Shloka says, in fact, even if you try to hold on to that thought, it will go. Because no thought can last for very long. Okay? But what she says is, what we do is, we do a series of related thoughts and we build on that thought. So that means now there is not just one thought. How many thoughts are there? Many, many different thoughts. And they are what? They are increasingly building a story. And then what happens? There is a huge story which is created, and I get totally identified with the story which is in my mind. And then there is a sustained feeling of sadness. Okay? So that means the story building that I have has what? I have so many implicit assumptions within this story. I need to do what? Look at what are the assumptions behind this story, right? And what do I need to do? Correct some of these assumptions which are faulty assumptions and replace them by what? Realities. Because unless I do that, right, mind has its own logic. It works out all these different logics in a matter of seconds. So unless you spend time with those logics and try to understand your own implicit logics and try to see where it is coming from and undo this logic consciously, it will all continue to have its own life. Okay? So that means if sense of entitlement, as Shloka said, is my implicit assumption, what do I replace it with? What is the reality? So you actually, exactly, right? What is your entitlement? Tell me.
Nothing.
Nothing. And what do you think? Loads and loads and loads of
But
entitlement.
is there no sense in that we're not entitled to at least lead a life that makes me
Freedom,
happy,
I would
or-
imagine.
Yeah, freedom is
Exactly.
an entitlement.
Absolutely. Right? Freedom of choice is an entitlement. That is the right entitlement. That's really the right entitlement. Because I am born with buddhi, capacity to think and capacity to distinguish between what? Right and wrong. That entitlement, basically, nobody can take away from me. Unless there is some big event where I lose my mental capacity. I mean, that's an extreme situation, we're not talking about that. So that means that is the true entitlement that I have as long as I live. Everything else that I think is my entitlement is what? Situations are very good. And you want them to be what? Stable and permanent. Is this the right expectation? When things are constantly changing and you want things to be what? Exactly how you want them to be, and not only that, but stay that way, not change. How reasonable is this? Is not aligning your whole thought process with how the universe moves. If things are changing and I want things to be stable and constant, I'm setting myself up for what?
Exactly.
Sadness. Who's the cause? I am, because the whole expectation is totally wrong. It's not in keeping with how the universe is. Okay? So that means if I have this entitlement by free will, what will I say? The world is changing. Every second it is changing. Nobody can just say, now stand still. Nobody can. So if I, what? If I want to engage in the world with such certain freedom, what will I do? I will say, recognize those changes and then what? Incorporate those changes because they are facts. Then use my free will to help myself to say, now within those changes, how can I get what I want to the best of my ability? Okay? Because that is how things are. That means you are using your buddhi to what? Navigate your life with wisdom. Otherwise, you get totally identified with your expectations, your stories, which are not in keeping with realities. And as long as there is no alignment, all these problems are bound to occur. Okay? So this is where, in fact, this whole Gayatri mantra that we do, which is, the whole Vedic life, at the age of 10 or 11, a child is asking and saying, let my mind be taken to what? Certain right way of looking at this. Okay? Because we operate from our own assumptions which are not in keeping with what the reality is. And we constantly try to manipulate the world according to our lives. And what exactly we want, what we consider as our end. And when things don't happen the way we expect, what happens? There's a lot of sadness. I mean, you can say, so what, right? But so what? No, it leads to a lot of suffering.
That's also self-indulgence.
And that is self-indulgence, right? So let me be alive to realities and let me realign my life incorporating those realities. Okay? And what? Taking those realities on my stride to live the meaningful life. Because unless you do that, you are constantly rubbing against the realities. And you are not doing it. Okay? So sadness is something which is this entitlement. What else leads to sadness?
Disconnect.
Sorry?
Disconnect.
Disconnect with what?
Yourself.
Very good. What does it mean? Can you explain?
If you don't understand yourself, or you don't love yourself,
Right? The relationship that we have with ourselves, the kind of messages we give to ourselves, it's got nothing to do with our accomplishments, it's nothing to do with the privileges that we enjoy. We are constantly, implicitly talking to ourselves. And we have what we call a self-image. Okay. And if that self-image is fraught with, okay, generally, when you are living in a culture, people say that, oh, it's not good to be proud. And maybe it's true. But it is also not good to be having low self-esteem. Please understand that. So where do you find a healthy, good self-esteem without being proud and without what? Suffering from inferiority complex. So that means you have to have a good self-image. It's one of the essentials of, how will you understand you are limitless? If you feel you are miserable, you are so insignificant and your sense of I is filled with guilt, how will you understand? Okay? So therefore, you need to first relatively free yourself from the sense of guilt and what? Have healthy self-image. Now, where do you think that in fact, even this superiority complex that we think people have is actually a compensation for inferiority complex? You feel not so good, so you want to project yourself as what? Very big, very important, and you actually derive all your sense of well-being from that kind of feedback that you get from others. So that means you need that because you don't have a good self-image. So whether you have an inferiority complex or you have a superiority complex, actually both are what?
insecurity.
Insecurities.
It's very important it a Napoleon complex.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? So now, how do you begin to have a healthy self-image? Tell me. How? Because one thing is for me to tell you that, yeah, you must have good self-image, but then how? Then always the question is how. And it all has to be first understand whatever Vedanta is talking about, it's talking about from the standpoint of re-understanding realities. Right? We are not talking about moving from negative to positive and both are our imaginations.
Then it has to do with the way of saying, which is connection to self.
Exactly. So that means you are connecting to yourself, but how do you ensure? You're constantly connecting to yourself. But how do you ensure that this self that you're connecting to is a nourished self? And not this self which is feeling like lacking, this lack, inadequacies, lack of failure, all these things. How do you make that connection to the self a healthy connection?
Yeah, I look at things realistically and not subjectively, because often when you're putting yourself down or low self-esteem, you're looking at things in a very negative way, but it's not reality.
Exactly.
So looking at things more realistically than subjectively.
Exactly. So that means what Nakul is saying, yeah, come here, look.
Sorry.
I
I get a prize.
Okay. So that means what he's saying is you're telling yourself a picture which is based on non-realities, which is what? Based on your own imagination. So what do you do now? Spend time with that. Generally what happens, we try to avoid because it's not comfortable.
But also what feels authentic.
What feels authentic?
Not just realistic. Finding something of the voices that resonates and feels authentic. That's how you know it's
It's very complicated because even one step before, I totally agree with that, one step before, I actually know a lot of people and I can see that they're not willing to even go and introspect and actually connect or understand themselves. They set up these barriers to self-reflect, to even think that some good will come out of. They don't want to. They're just very comfortable living their life the way it is and just not opening up this Pandora's box, but then you go off on a whole new outlook on life. Right?
That's correct. So what Uday is saying is very true. You cannot force anybody to look into it, and most of the people avoid it. Right? But the thing is, they consciously avoid it because it is now entering this whole big area where there are so many unknowns and they're afraid.
And it will bring change.
And it will bring
Which
change.
complicates.
So this is why you leave them alone, because what can you do, right? Unless you decide to change, nobody else can change. That is a fact. So now we are talking about people who are interested in changing, okay? And now they have to undo this whole self-image that has some strong assumptions. Generally what happens is that we want to resist that because it's a painful process. It's not an easy process. Looking into yourself is probably one of the most difficult.
And also, sorry.
No, but who tells you what the right assumptions are?
Yeah. So therefore,
That's the question that I was also coming to.
You should be authentic, whatever you are, you are.
Because I think also like what you start realizing is that there are these layers of duty, expectation, responsibility, etc. that exist in, especially like in the social fabric like India. And anywhere actually, I think, whatever layers of noise you set up, but just cutting through that and getting to your voice inside, right? Like who you really are. I mean, in some senses that is what I would call real happiness, right? Is when you're able to be that voice that you are. But how do you cut through those layers of duty and responsibility, expectation and whatnot that you set up and be authentic?
that's right, because we have to confront people who live in the world. Absolutely. Right? So now, certain facts about the world. Okay? The minute you feel you control things, this is a wrong assumption. So what do you have to do? You have no choice. It's not like, oh, what do I know whether it is right or wrong. That sense of control, that you control things, is just what? Your own imagination. It's not reality. So what do? You basically tell yourself, give up this whole attempt to control events.
Let go.
Let go. That is something which is very important. But let go, what is the flip side of this let go? You don't take enough responsibilities. So now, what do you need to do? Balance. It's very important because even though you don't control the outcomes, what do you have in hand? You feel it.
Action.
Action. So that means you distinguish between what is something that you can do, where is it that you can use your free will to bring about changes, and where is it that where the results when they come, they are taken care of by the loss. The loss of what we call cause and effect. Okay. So that means, where is your focus now? Generally what happens when things don't happen our way and we have an illusion of control, then either we blame the world or we blame ourselves. Now if I realign my thinking in keeping with what is, there is a very famous verse of Bhagavad Gita which talks about Karmani eva adhikaraha te ma phaneshu kadachana. Okay. This is probably one of the most famous verses of Gita. I don't know if you belong to generation which makes any sense to you. But it's good it doesn't make sense because it is most misunderstood verse also. Because people make this verse into an advice. They say, you do an action without expecting a result. This is not at all what is said in the verse. What the verse is talking about, recognize when you have a choice and when you don't have a choice. Okay? When it comes to action, you have a choice. Okay? What is the choice? Kartum shakyam, akartum shakyam, anyatha kartum shakyam. I can do it, I need not do it, or I can do it differently. I can give and I can give.
I assume that you can control your actions, but you can't control the
Outcomes.
Yeah.
Right? But once I have decided that I'm going to drop it, do I control the outcome? No. Right? Because if I control the outcome, what will happen? One day I will say I wanted to go up, next day I want to say that I want to go in that direction, north, one day south, one day east, one day west. But I don't control. Okay? Now, one thing is very important. If you don't control the outcomes, what brings about the outcomes? There are two possibilities. One is that the outcomes are totally random, or the outcomes are following laws of cause and effect. You have to think about it. Which of the two options do you think it's more possible? Laws of cause and effect. Why?
Because it's not only my actions, but everyone's actions that kind of bleed in together and affect the Leo Tolstoy's story
That I did.
Coupon.
Right? So that means, did you all hear that story of Leo Tolstoy? You didn't hear?
No.
Okay. When did you hear that?
Last year in Odessa.
In Odessa. Okay. So now I'm going to tell you the story of Leo Tolstoy. Right? So, yeah. So, Leo Tolstoy is a very famous Russian philosopher. His writings were a big inspiration to Mahatma Gandhi. So, he's written a book of short stories. Right? And there is one story which the name of the story is Forged Coupon. Okay? So, now the story goes that it's starting on a Sunday morning where a father is reading a newspaper and a little boy comes to his father, his father, and it's beginning of the month. And beginning of the month is the time that the child gets his monthly allowance. Okay? So his normal monthly allowance is 2 the father is reading newspaper, the son comes and says, okay, father, my monthly allowance very weekly. And father says, yes, yes, I'll give it to you. And he says, but this month, instead of 2 rubles, I want 9 rubles. I said, what? Why do you need 9 rubles? Such a big increase, such a big jump. So he said that during this week, I went for a show, there was an opera, and I really wanted to go for it. Okay? So I borrowed from my friend this money, and I promised him that at the end of the month, when it's time for my allowance, I will take more money from my father and I will return it. And I said, what? Who asked you to go and see an opera? And you didn't even ask me for permission? How can you just make decisions like that? And so now you figure out how you want to repay. I'm not giving you 1 ruble more. And the father said, please, because I have borrowed this money, I have not done anything wrong with it. I have just gone and seen a cultural show. I have not kind of used it for smoking or for drinking or anything. I have not misused it. Father, please understand that I need to give this money. He said, no way. Right? So he says, he gives his monthly allowance in form of a coupon. Okay? So it's a 2 ruble coupon. And he says, this is what you have and you figure out how to solve this problem. Okay? Now this little boy is left with what? His 2 rubles. He has this conscience that he has to pay back his friend because he had promised that he will repay the money at the end of the month. He doesn't know what to do now. Okay? So he goes to his friend and he says, can you please give me 7 rubles because I need to repay my friend. Friend said, I don't have this kind of money. Okay? So now the person is like feeling really helpless and see now what should I do. The friend says, even though I don't have money to give you, I have a solution. What is the solution? So he said that now, how much money you have? He says, I have only 2 rubles in form of a coupon. He says, you add 1 in front, right? And then what will it be? 12. Right? So he says, from then on, it became a forged coupon. Now the child knows very well that this is a wrong thing to do. He knows. It's not that the child doesn't know. He knows, but he finds no other solution. And what he has a good intention of paying back his friend. So he is in a mindset that he is looking at his options and trying to solve the problem. This is the only option available in his little mind. So what does he do? He puts that 1, right? So now it has become a fortune. Now the friend says, it is there, but you need to encash it in order to actually have the money, right? So he says, let's go to a small shop and buy some sweets worth 2 rubles, and then when you give the coupon, how much you will get back? 10. You will get back 10, then you pay 7 and you will still have your 2-3 rubles as your allowance. Okay? So the boy says, okay, now let's do that. So they go to a shop and they choose some nice sweets, and there is a lady there and she packs everything and they give her what? This forged coupon. Now the lady sees 2 little innocent boys, she doesn't pay much attention, she takes this coupon and she gives them sweet and she gives them change. So now they have 10 rubles, they have sweets, so immediately this little boy goes and what does he do? He repays his friend. So he pays 7, he is relieved and they think the problem is solved. Then the story goes on. What is happening, right, to this shop in the evening? Because the boys think that the problem is solved, but actually what happens? Okay? What happens is at night, in the shop, this husband comes to do the accounts. And the husband is much sharper than this wife. So he immediately, what? Looks at this coupon and he immediately knows that this is not the real coupon, it's forged. Okay? So he starts shouting at his wife and says, "What is this? Who gave you this?" Okay? And she just thinks about it. And she says, "You know, yeah, there were these little two boys who came and they bought some sweets from me and they gave me this coupon and they were looking so nice and innocent. I didn't pay much attention and I just gave them the change back." Okay? And the husband flares up and says, "You emotional fool, you don't even pay attention to anything. You are not at all alert about anything. I can't even trust you with this little thing of, running this shop. You're always making mistakes. You're not at all paying attention." So he starts abusing her. And what is she feeling in her mind? Why did I ever marry this man? That my parents always told me that he's insensitive, he's just constantly looking down on you, he has no respect for you, and I was so much in love with him and I just disregarded the advice that my parents gave. Okay? Why did I ever marry him? So that means there was a huge fight between husband and wife. Right? Now, the husband says, "I still need to look for some solution as to how to get rid of this forged coupon." Okay? So he says, "Now what do I do?" So it's a Russia and there is a winter which is a very severe winter, so they need a lot of wood, okay, to keep warm. So therefore he says, now, in the city everybody will figure out that this is a forged coupon. These people are smart. Let me go to a countryside, go to a peasant who is selling wood, right? And buy some bulk wood worth 12 rubles. I will have enough wood for the rest of the winter and I'll get rid of my coupon. So he goes to a countryside, okay, and he goes to a little peasant and he's waiting for somebody to come and buy his stuff. He buys this bulk wood. The peasant is so happy. Right? He takes this 12 ruble coupon, right? And this guy comes home with all the wood for the winter, okay? And now he is, in his mind, he has also solved the problem. Then at night, this peasant, to celebrate all this earning that he had, he goes to a bar to drink water. So he drinks a couple of vodkas and what? Pays the bar owner with this coupon. The owner recognizes that it is forged. Now the peasant has no power. He is uneducated, no power. He immediately calls the police. The police comes and arrests this peasant, puts him in jail, and the wife of this peasant is totally destroyed. Okay. So now the story goes on and there are one or two more events. But what exactly is the story saying? Whose fault? There are a series of events. The lives of people are so profoundly impacted. And who has started the whole chain? Tell me. Who? Who, according to you, is the cause? Father, right? So, what is the problem with father's decision? Tell me.
I mean, it's a qualitative judgment. You could say bad parents.
Exactly. You know.
But why not the boy?
Yeah, very good.
Not the boy's friend.
No, why not the
Why should be all
It was all up to the boy's free will. It was his choice.
So many people have used their free wills, right?
Yeah. But the father was right when he said you should have come to me for money. That why did you make a decision by yourself? You just made it and didn't think of the consequences.
Okay. So, this is what we say, and the parenting is, I think what the word Shloka used, the bad parenting, is something which is a very nice word, because generally what happens is, it's a good word because it's true. that we go by rules. Right? You set rules for the child and you're totally inflexible in helping the child to what? Making easy for the child to follow rules. You just go by that and leave him to solve all the problems that the child is not capable of solving. Okay? So if you want the child to share with you, what father could have done differently? Tell me.
I mean, obviously this child's intentions were bad because he wanted to repay someone,
Exactly.
which is, in some sense, like it's a good quality.
Exactly.
You could
Quite
argue that so
resourceful.
everybody that it's starting because we borrow and borrowing is not good.
But
You're
he's
living
quite
in debt
resourceful. I
at
have
that
to give
age.
him, you know, Russia in those days, like
No, that's true. That's true.
but, yeah.
So is it that actually it's everybody in the chain is at fault?
Exactly. So that I mean,
Selective.
right.
You're passing the problem on.
Exactly.
And your reaction?
You're not removing the problem from the world. You're just
Because you're-
recreating
If you
situations
think
that
once your problem is solved, it's solved. So you're concentrating
On
on
your
yourself.
exactly, right? But you're not looking at the consequences of some actions that we perform on what so many other
And
people.
that's what we always do.
That's what we always do. You are focused on yourself and somehow you try to get rid of your problem. And you think that once I've got rid of this problem, the problem is solved.
But actually you're just
But you're actually compounding, you're multiplying the problem
will not follow the
and not following the problem.
I mean, in your example, it's like if you're hot, you turn on the AC, or when you're showering, you shower for like 10 minutes, not thinking about like
the environment.
water issues somewhere else.
And this is real life. When I got married to my husband, and when you brush your teeth, I used to keep the tap on, and he said, so much, because so much water you are wasting. Okay, so there is small things, and then we constantly, in the UN, I write papers about environment and what the government should do, and this is a strategy. But in my own life, I'm totally oblivious, right? I mean, this is many times we understand very well how everybody else should be, how everybody else should be responsible, but we forget our own responsibilities. Okay? So this interconnected world is something which is a fact, that you are living in a world which is not like a dead world or anything. Okay? It has what we call the whole ecology. Okay? It is governed, the interaction of all these different fishes that are swimming in awareness. It's all not just random appearance of those fishes or all the creatures. They are all coming, they are intelligently created, and there are series of laws which govern their interaction. So if I want to be alive to realities, what do I need to do?
But what's interesting is that at every point in the story, everyone has individual free will.
Exactly. Because everybody enjoys free will.
Yeah, no one needed to keep asking that.
Everyone of course,
Exactly.
If one individual in that chain had also just stopped and said, for instance, if the husband had just said, forget it, it's happened.
But that's the choice that we make, and that's the action that we do which then has.
So this exactly, what Shloka is saying is very important. That particular problem could have, anybody could have used the free will and said, okay, now I'm not going to what? Continue this problem and multiply this problem. Okay? If the husband had said, okay, now we have lost some 12 rupees, it's okay. We are doing a business, we can put up with it, it's okay. Okay? Or a bar owner, even a bar owner, we have to call the police and put him in jail, and so this is what we say, and this is what in real life, this is exactly how we behave. What is our perspective? We are totally focused on ourselves, and we want to manipulate the world in a way that suits our narrowly defined self-interest. As long as this is the perspective, what is going to happen? Knowingly or unknowingly, you will compound world problems and not contribute towards solution. Please don't take the burden of the whole world on your shoulder. Please please understand, don't over-assume the responsibilities, but do your part within your sphere of influence. That is what we call living with clarity. Neither you are passive, nor you are what? Over-assuming responsibilities. But you are using your free will wisely to make the changes that you think are necessary. Both with reference to your own life and your self-image, and with reference to what? Certain causes that you feel close to, you want to contribute towards whatever little thing that you want to make a contribution, go ahead and do it. Because otherwise you always feel helpless. You get into this complaining mode. You act from all this dissatisfaction, and you always have agenda for others, and you don't really sufficiently use your energies to make differences that you can. You're in an impasse.
The nice flip side to this also is that if you set in motion for a good thing, then that also has a ripple
And
effect.
that has ripple effect, exactly. That's why you need to re-look at and re-understand the nature of the world. The nature of the world is not all dumb forces. Okay? And this is why the whole Vedic culture, what? You get up in the morning and you do what? You do salutations to the sun. Are you saluting the hydrogen atoms? No. Who are you saluting?
Rising force.
Yeah. There is an intelligence which places the sun exactly where it has to be placed in relationship to the earth. While the entire galaxies and everything is moving at a very fast speed, that distance remains constant. The sun being in that position, what? Gives you life through so many different mechanisms. Okay. First, it gives the warmth that is needed. Second, what? All the food that you eat through plant. How do the plants get their energy? Through sun, through this whole process of what we call photosynthesis. The plants derive energy from the sun. Being so far away, the plant is able to get the energy. Convert it into what? At times what? Different minerals, different vitamins, different things that you need. Right? Then that is consumed by you to sustain your life. And the sun also makes the ocean water evaporate. And it forms into a cloud which then makes rainfall. It sustains the plants, gives you water. So look at this whole intelligent system within which you are living. And that system is constantly at work. Constantly. And we are totally oblivious in our awareness that we don't even think about it. We don't even acknowledge this whole working of the universe, which is so benevolent towards us. We take it all for granted, and little things that don't go our way, our mind is totally preoccupied with it, and we are constantly either in a complaining mode, or a sad mode, or an angry mode. We need to re-look at, in keeping with realities, there is this intelligence which is making the sun what it is, and you need to show your gratitude. So how do you change your psyche from a dissatisfied, isolated human being to a person who feels connected with the universe, who feels grateful? Once you feel grateful and once you feel full within yourself, what will happen? If you feel the lack, you are mostly what? A consumer. Because you need to feel better about yourself. Okay? So you want this and you want this and you want this to what? feel the lack that you feel. But if you have gratitude, you feel what?
Holding back.
You feel full. If you feel full, what is the nature of your transaction with the world? To give. You become from a consumer to a giver, contributor. All the healing takes place when you what? Begin to give. Otherwise, all these wounds that are there, they will continue to remain there and they will continue to rule you. No matter how much you have listened to Vedanta, unless you make that shift, re-understanding the world, re-understanding your position in the scheme of things, re-understanding your part at a relative level, this absolute reality will not be known by you and cannot be lived by you. Okay. These are some of the most profound and real changes that happen in us. Okay. Without which the vision of Vedanta is not complete. This is why it is not like just mathematics class. It's not just like physics class. It is a spiritual pursuit. Because it is re-understanding myself and my position in the world and what living with my new understanding and not what my past implicit assumptions with which I have been living. Reconciling. So this is why we need to pay attention to our relative and relive life with different lives. And those understandings, please understand, they are based on realities. What I have a choice over, what I don't have a choice over, how the universe operates, is it a dumb universe or it is an intelligent universe, all that I need to re-understand. That's what makes my life meaningful. Okay? So the next verse, until when can I go on? You want to leave? You want to leave? Okay. So now, just I will introduce the next topic and then I will tell you. So, when I started this whole inquiry about the nature of I, what do we start with? We start by saying that I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. And immediately Uday, I think in one of my very first classes, he says, but you can't just, say that I'm not the body and I'm not the mind and be indifferent to it. And this is exactly what the Upanishads are saying. That even though you are much more than any given body and mind, you have been given this body and mind, and you need the body and mind to remove your ignorance. Because unless you are, right, in that given form, you will not be able to remove your ignorance. So now, that thing that you are not, but it is something that is given to you, and it is an instrument which is extremely necessary for you to not solve the problem. Okay? So how to use this instrument is something that is said in the next few verses. Okay? You can't just afford to say, oh, I'm not the body and mind, so let me forget about it. No. This is the greatest asset that is given to you. So how to use it constructively. This is next few verses. What are the assets and how to use them effectively is all shown step by step. You see that?